All right, let's talk about some impacts of society from mass wasting events. Spoiler alert, they're not good. Here's a list. You don't have to read through this. Here's a list of some notable mass wasting events that have occurred in the current 21st century, so in the past 20 plus years. First thing I want to point out is look at where all these happened. These are the ones that have the highest amount of deaths associated with them. India, China, Philippines, Taiwan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India. When you think of those countries, what do you think of? It's probably, oh, those countries don't have a lot of money. Remember that with most, and here's another example, with most natural hazards and disasters, they inversely affect more people with less money. So there's no guess as to why, some of the biggest mass wasting events, the most notable with the most fatalities, are in some of these countries. But if you look, heavy rainfall, heavy rainfall, heavy rainfall, heavy rains, heavy rainfall. Looking at this one in Afghanistan, heavy rainfall caused a mudslide, which covered the town from 33 to 98 feet of mud. That's a 10-story building. That's, if you ever go to campus, our tallest building is 3 stories, the library, 3 of those. That's how much mud in some places that people were buried under. There's no guess as to why 500 people died. Again, heavy rains, but mass deforestation, settlements of poor villagers on landslide-prone areas due to lack of suitable land for settlement elsewhere, heavy rainfall, unplanned development, deforestation. So it's multiple of things, So here are some of those areas, just to kind of highlight what has been seen in those areas. For instance, this is the one in Afghanistan, the mudslide, the heavy rains causing, look at all these hills. Look how it just looks like loose material sitting there ready to just slide, in this case, slide on down. So you can see, if these villages, if their homes were as close to the base of this thing, again, no guess as to that's why 100 feet deep of mud occurred. This is those villagers living on these poor these slopes in which they shouldn't, because there's just nowhere else to live. So again, a lot of rain, and that's what you get. All right. So that was just in the past century so far. So in all times, looking at the deadliest mass wasting events, China, 1920, 100,000 deaths. Think back to flooding. China was on top again. China, what do you got going on? So if you look, a lot of these bigger events were coupled with other stuff. So an earthquake. In the case of China, earthquake generated 675 major landslides. All right. On the bigger ones, it's really little rainfall. Volcanic, ice, humans. When you were getting up into the biggest ones ever, it was just general heavy rainfall. Has less to do with it, more about kind of other stuff. Sometimes landslides are kind of secondary hazards of other things. But that India, the worst one in the 21st century, did make it to 5th worst on the all-time, at least recorded history. Now that was due to heavy rains, but that really was paired with thoughtless human intervention in the Himalayan mountain ecosystem had made the area prone to disaster. So just living where you shouldn't, developing the lands the way you shouldn't, making the lands unstable so that if some event occurred, there was going to be a landslide. That's what happened. But again, looking at these countries, China, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, India, Indonesia, Peru, Tajikistan, and China, again, these are not wealthy nations, whether now or 100 years ago. So here's just an image of some of those, that one in China. So this is just looking at some of these. You can see how these flows and slides just cover full areas. So that one in India, again, these debris flows, whatever it may be, just covering these large swaths. Again, headscarp up here, all that slide material coming on down. I tell you what. Let's pause there. That was some of just the worst around the world in the past 21st century or in recorded history. So let's pause there. We'll take some time to talk about the worst mass wasting events in U.S. history, which include Mount St. Helens in Washington, and that was the largest volume, but it was due to another hazard, the volcanic eruption. In Bingham Canyon, Utah, it was the largest volume naturally occurring. Gross Ventry in Wyoming, second largest in volume, that naturally occurred, wasn't caused by something else. Thistle, Utah was the costliest. We'll talk about one in Alaska. A lot going on there. La Conchita, California was the second deadliest landslides. And then Oso, Washington, which more recently became the deadliest landslide in U.S. history. So, like I said, let's go ahead and pause here. When we come back, I'll break all of those down for you. See you back here in just a minute.